We're being joined by retired Colonel Daniel Davis, who's a military expert and also the host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube, and he's joining us on this broadcast. Now, Colonel Davis, this is going to be a serious development that has happened where one of the fighter jets, the F-16 fighter jets that have been supplied by the West, appears to have crashed, and the circumstances leading to its crash at this moment are still not very clear. What's your take on this?
Well, I'm not in the least surprised. I've been arguing that this is a false hope from the beginning. The idea that you can take fighter pilots who were trained in the Soviet system, especially on MiG-29s or the like, and then quickly transition them over to a completely different type of airframe. Not just the language barrier that you mentioned is a big issue, but also the way the aircraft fights, the method with which it's supposed to be employed, the way it was designed to integrate with Western systems and air defense systems, radar systems, etc., none of which the Ukraine side would have, and then do it in a very, very compacted amount of time and think it was going to have success was never a realistic situation. I actually had a retired Air Force general, former F-16 fighter pilot on my show some number of months back when this was first announced, and he had the same comment as someone who knew what it was like to sit in the cockpit of those. What we hear in this first report here probably indicates that the higher probability, despite what is being claimed, is that the aircraft was shot down, because this was one of Ukraine's, apparently from the reports, one of their best pilots that they had, a guy called sign Moonfish. And the thing came in the middle of this Russian attempt to attack the Ukraine side on I think it was on Monday. And you know, if it was just pilot error or if it was some mechanical problem, then the pilot would simply have ejected and lived. But since the pilot was killed, it makes it appear that the probability is that it was shot down, because it's a very difficult task, especially in a new airframe under fire, to be able to get out of that. So we'll see. We don't have conclusive information yet, but regardless of what actually happened, we should not expect any more, better results from this than what we've seen so far.
You know, it's important, the point that you brought out, that if it was some kind of a pilot error, then the pilot would have ejected and survived. And it looks like possibly, we still do not know, that this aircraft may have been shot down. But it is deeply embarrassing to the United States of America, because the F-16 fighter jets are so the best fighter jets that the United States produces. And this is an American manufactured fighter jet which has gone down. Ukraine says that it needs at least 100 F-16 fighter jets to turn things around on the battlefield. Do you think the Americans will reassess this strategy of transferring F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine in the wake of this incident?
Well, I think it's important to understand which models of this F-16 were given over. They were definitely not some of the most modern ones we had, but some of the older versions that we had. Some of the most modern ones with all the upgrades, whatever, have not been given by the United States or our partners. And I just do not see even the platforms themselves being given over in that number, but who's going to fly them? I mean, you had Lindsey Graham in Kiev a week or so ago, openly campaigning to have Western NATO pilots who were F-16 trained to volunteer to fly these airframes, quote, until we get the Ukrainian pilots trained up. So he was admitting even then that they were not yet adequately trained in the numbers, even for the handful of airframes that they've had. And by the way, there are also some credible reports that at least 2 of the F-16s have been destroyed on the ground. So it's not clear at all how many are even still airworthy.
You know, that's interesting. And also, how do you think the Russians would be looking at this development? Everyone knew that this was not going to be a silver bullet, but Ukraine was saying that this is something that could turn things around on the battlefield. How do you think the Russians view this?
Yeah, you say everyone says that they knew it wasn't a silver bullet, but did they? Because there were lots of claims that this was going to change the dynamics of the war. Lindsey Graham echoed that again just the other day, that this is going to be a big change. And once we get all these aircraft in the air, it's going to make a difference. But it never was going to, because Russia has significant air defenses that are a legitimate threat to America's top-line aircraft. There's a reason why the Ukraine Air Force hasn't hardly flown any sorties at all from the start of this war, because the Russian tactical air defense systems and the ability to shoot them down is considerably higher than anything the Ukraine side has, as evidenced by the fact that Russian missiles fly almost unimpeded throughout their country. But it doesn't happen on the other side because of the ability of Russia to reach out farther than the Ukraine side can. So it's not going to matter whether there's F-16s, whether there's 6 of them, 100 of them, MiG-29s. It's just not going to matter because they don't have enough, and the Russians do have enough air defense capacity.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Colonel Daniel Davis, for joining us and getting us that perspective then.
Always my pleasure.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.